ora and welcome to the Tourism Chat Show. I'm Michelle and we're back with another great episode for you this week. So hopefully your week has started well. The sun's shining, well it is up here anyway in sunny Lake Taupo, and yeah, it's starting to feel like summer, so I'm feeling a bit excited about that. So today's guest is Anne Newman. So Anne is the General Manager at the Christchurch Adventure Park, and what an incredible woman she is. She has just been named the Akiaki Emerging Tourism Leader at the New Zealand Tourism Awards a couple of weeks ago. So I thought we'd get her onto the podcast for a chat. And yeah, she's really open about some of the challenges that she's faced in her career. She's giving some great advice for aspiring leaders on what they can do to make their mark on the industry. And yeah, just a really nice chat. So hopefully you enjoy that. Don't forget, the TRENZ applications are closing this week. So if you have not yet put your name down to come to TRENZ, you need to be doing that. And if you're still a little bit unsure, go back and listen to the couple of episodes that we've already released on the TRENZ Unpacked series. You can sit and listen to Sess talk about cracking into the Asian markets. You can have a listen to Thomas from Heliseeker, who attended TRENZ last year for the first year and is heading back next year. And not only is he heading back, last year he took half a booth. This year he's taking a full booth. That's how successful it was for him. So look, there's plenty of opportunities out there for you. It's a great opportunity for you to get yourself in front of hundreds of international buyers who come to New Zealand, especially to look for tourism product to sell to their customers. So yeah, look out for that. I'll put the link in the episode notes. If you haven't yet applied, don't leave it to the last minute. You've only got a couple of days left. I think it might only be a day left. So yeah, get in there, listen to this, and off you go and sign up for TRENZ. Okay, everybody, that's it from me today. I'm going to hand over now to the interview with Anne Newman from Christchurch Adventure Park, and please enjoy. If you do, leave a 5-star review, comment, send us a note on our social media. We are at the Tourism Chat Show on Instagram, or you can find us on LinkedIn under Destinate NZ, which is my company name. So yeah, look forward to hearing from you. We have some great guests lined up. I say this every week, and there's just so many awesome people in tourism, aren't there? So we've got some great episodes leading into the Christmas break. We're going to do a bit of an update on the cruise sector for you. We've got a bit of a wrap up with a few inbound operators joining us just for a bit of a Christmas chat. And what else have we got? Anyway, you'll have to just tune in and see. Make sure you subscribe where you're listening now, and we'll see you next week. Ka kite. So today I welcome Anne Newman from the Christchurch Adventure Park to the show. Kia ora, Anne, and welcome.
Kia ora, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
And look, firstly, congratulations on winning the Akiaki Emerging Tourism Leader Award. We talked about the Tourism Awards a little bit on last week's show, but what does this recognition mean to you personally and professionally?
Oh, look, I think it's pretty humbling to receive an award like this and to be recognised by your peers. I mean, because there's just so many people out there doing so many good things. So I think, you kind of have this moment of just kind of taking a step back and looking back at everything you have done and what you have achieved. Because I think so often we put our head down and we just keep moving forward. So actually, it was actually a really nice time to just sort of to reflect. But for me, it was just like, it was great for the team's recognition, because nobody can do this by yourself. So for me, it was kind of like having good people around me and a chance for me to then be able to say thank you to them.
Yeah, awesome. Yep. And did you have many of your team there on the night?
Only a few. Obviously, they had to fly out from Christchurch and stuff, so we couldn't bring too many. So yeah, there was a couple there actually, which was actually really nice to have them there. Yeah,
awesome. And you've managed to have a little celebration since you've been back?
Oh, yep. I had to shout everybody in the office go nuts.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Around here.
Excellent. Now, your career has spanned various challenges and successes both in New Zealand and abroad. Can you share some key moments that shaped your journey to becoming a leader in the tourism industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a range of them, really. I think my career started, I actually did the typical Kiwi thing and jumped on a plane and went overseas once I got my degree.
Yeah.
And so I worked in London. I lived there for 15 years and had jobs as international marketing and financial services.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're working for big FTSE 100 companies, you get quite a big sort of good understanding around processes and, when they've got lots of money, how to do things really well.
Yeah.
So that was probably really, really interesting. When I came back to New Zealand, I kind of thought, oh, I'm not going to get a job like I've had. So what do I do? So I set up my own marketing business in Christchurch, because what Christchurch got is a lot of small, medium-sized businesses that perhaps need some support.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a big challenge in terms of running your own business and actually really understanding the challenges and looking at where your next bit of revenue is going to come from and how am I going to pay staff and that type of thing, and actually going out and getting business, because when you work for a corporate, you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. So I guess there's probably a few of those sorts of things like that. And then obviously just having dealt with a few challenges along the way in terms of earthquakes and, fires and all sorts of different things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So what initially drew you to the Christchurch Adventure Park, and what keeps you passionate about the work that you do there?
Originally, I was brought on, they were actually a client of mine.
Okay.
And so I was brought on to help them get their investment across the line and kind of raise the profile of the park before it was actually open. So doing sort of some comms and PR and sort of marketing throughout the construction so that it could hit the ground running, which was great. And then obviously we opened and we're open for 7 weeks. And then the Port Hills fire in 2017 went through 7 weeks after the park opened. So I ended up having to pick up quite a lot of the comms at that time. These 3 spokespeople we had, one was overseas and it was the middle of the night, one was on a plane, and the other one was in fighting a fire.
Oh, wow.
Like, we've got no spokespeople, and someone just said, you need to do it. And I was like, no, I'm behind the camera.
Yeah.
I'm bossing people around behind the camera. I don't front it. And they said, well, you do now. And so I to front the media around that first fire. And then obviously that sort of continued. And while the park was closed for 10 months, the board approached me and said, would you consider becoming the general manager? So it kind of fell into it, to be fair. It wasn't a planned move at all, but I kind of considered it. And I just thought it's such a cool asset for Christchurch. And Otatahi had nothing like this, like it was just something quite different. So, and I could see the potential with it. So I thought, yep, let's take that on. It sounds like a bit of fun. But I didn't quite realise the adventure was going to be on me when I took it on.
So since then, I mean, you obviously mentioned that first fire. There's been a fair share of challenges that you've had to face. How do you approach each of those, when they sort of stand there looking at you?
Yeah, like we said, we have had a fair few challenges. I think probably the way I approach it is I'm a big fan of controlling your controllables. There's so much under a crisis or different scenarios with what you can't control.
Yeah.
So, like the fire itself, I can't control that. That's in the hands of the fire service and I can't even influence it. So what can I control? So that's kind of communication back into the team, to our stakeholders, kind of putting a plan in place for when, say using the fire as an example, what do we do when we reopen? So kind of start to think about all the things that need to be done and sort of planning. So really kind of looking at what I can control, because I think if you feel like you've got a wee bit of control over something, then it doesn't feel quite so onerous. So and I don't try to stress about the other stuff that's out of my control.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yes.
That's what I try and focus on, the things that, and really, I think in times of crisis, you get really good at prioritizing.
Yeah.
You get really good at going, okay, this is important. These things are just,
and these other things can wait. Yep. Or they're just distractions that we don't need at the moment.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like the team will come, oh, we could do this, or what about that? And it's like, that's not important right now. Let's focus on this. And just having that really clear mindset about what's important.
Yeah. And talking of the team there, because obviously when you're in crisis mode, like as a leader, you've got to lead that crisis, but all of your team members are going to handle it very differently. So how do you build that strong and supportive team and create and maintain that environment amongst your staff?
Yeah, I think communication's really, really key, because I think in those crises kind of sort of scenarios, it's the lack of information or the uncertainty that kind of spins people out of, they get carried away in their own heads. And like, oh, we're losing our jobs and what's going to happen and that sort of stuff. So I think for me, I've always been one where I will communicate and be honest, but sometimes I may hold little bits and pieces back, but I'll also be quite transparent. So when people are saying, "Oh, when are we going to get back in the park?" I'd say, "Guys, I really don't know. As soon as I know, I'll let you know."
Yeah.
Or if they were going, "Are we going to lose their jobs?" And I would be like, currently that there's no conversation around that. But if if that is coming up, I'm in the same boat as you guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm kind of pretty transparent and sort of empathetic, but also, I guess, giving them tasks as well that they can control, and that they say, "Oh, this is a really good opportunity. Why don't we go off and do a team building day off site?" Well, we can't be on site, so let's go and do something and have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
So it's trying to get everybody together and on the same page, and it's people react to crises quite differently. But it is actually really important to sort of be in there all together. The worst thing you can do is actually lack of communication, or in a void of communication, people actually make things up.
Create stories, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we just do some team bonding days. Like the last fire that we went, Christchurch Attractions up at the gondola, they offered us their site. So we went up there and just did a big session about lessons learnt that we found in the fire, and everybody had their opportunity to put their 2 pence worth in, and it was good.
Oh, nice. And was that your first experience in crisis management?
No, I've done quite a bit of it before.
Right, yeah.
In different remits, and probably more from a comms perspective, I would say, in the past. When I was in London, I was involved in the London bombings, and I had team coming in that had been stuck in the tube when those had happened. So I've been in those. Even I think when I was at university and I was working in a bar restaurant, we had a kitchen fire.
Oh, wow.
There's a few. I obviously did quite a bit of earthquakes. I got back just in time for the earthquakes. So I did a bit of comms around earthquakes. So I probably... It's interesting. It's one of those things, nobody even knows how you're going to react in a crisis, but for some reason I seem to have I don't know how I get it, but I have quite a clear head when things like that happen. But it's different when the buck ultimately stops with you and you are in charge. It's a very different story than when you're just doing the comms and supporting somebody on a wider scale. So
Yeah. The Adventure Park recently went through a recapitalisation project. Can you share with us what that entailed and what it means for the future of the park?
Yeah, we went through recapitalisation basically because we needed some further income, and, well, not income, but we needed some further revenue in order to honour a construction loan that was happened earlier throughout the build. So the bank wanted to sort of pull that in rather than repay it. I think they obviously realised we might have been a wee bit risky, and so they wanted their money. So it was more to pay that off. So we went out to all the existing shareholders that we had, and so there was no new shareholders that came on board, but certain shareholders increased their shareholding by putting some more money into the park, which is great.
Yep, nice. So it takes a bit of that pressure off from the bank breathing down your neck.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And ultimately down the track, we'd like to go and get some more capital in order to put more attractions into the park.
Awesome. So if we reflect on leadership and teamwork, as a leader, what do you think some of the most important qualities that are needed to thrive in the tourism industry today?
Communication's got to be one, surely. And with that goes relationship management. Just having good relationships across the board, whether it's with your staff, with suppliers, customers, your peers, just so key for getting anything sort of done. And in terms of leadership, being empathetic as well to staff, obviously, especially when you're going through stressful situations or they're dealing with different things. And I'd say, and probably honesty, sort of being that transparent and honest, I think really sort of helps. But at the end of the day, I'd say number 1, 2, kind of communication, relationship management, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You don't have that, you don't have pretty much anything really.
Yeah. And all that other stuff can come quite easily, isn't it? Because if you can communicate with your team and you understand what's going on in their worlds, then you've got the empathy piece that goes with that, and it just rolls on, doesn't it? And then people will have your back as well if they...
I think very much so. I think if you're sort of honest and you communicate with them and bits and pieces, then it's amazing what you get back.
Mm.
It really is. Yeah, and the team, they feed me in terms of information as well around what's happening in the park and what they're seeing and customers and stuff. So I think the other thing is being approachable is something that's really important as well. We've got a lot of young staff and often not, like they're not necessarily qualified. They've just come in and getting work experience in their first jobs.
Yeah.
And so coming into a sort of environment where you've got management and you've got all these people that they probably think know everything that they're doing, which we don't always, but it's really important to be approachable because they can see things that me sitting in an office looking at spreadsheets and profit and loss won't see.
Yeah. And sometimes those, what they might think are dumb questions are actually so obvious. Sometimes you go, oh, why didn't we think of that? It's actually a really good question. We need to make that clearer because we just go along and think, oh, that's all obvious. Like we do this because this is what we do. And somebody new comes in and asks those questions or they're intrigued about what you're doing and it can work in your favor.
And I think probably another quality, which I think we were talking about before on leadership, was probably leading by example. I think it's really important. So, like I very much try and make sure that I get out into the operation. School holidays, one Sunday, I was 5 hours at the lift, literally just loading the lift and talking to customers like nobody. And then other days I might be up at the cafe washing dishes or clearing tables. One, you just pick stuff up when you're out in the environment, but also it's really nice to talk to customers and actually get out there because it's very easy to get sort of stuck in your own world dealing with emails and stuff. But the whole thing about being in tourism is the people. So it's actually good to get out there. Yeah. But also to show staff that, it's last school holidays, and in fact, even last week I cleaned the toilets. Like there's nobody too big to clean the toilets or to pick up the rubbish. And I think that helps with that team environment as well.
Oh, definitely. Yep. I know when I've done stuff like that in my past roles, it's really appreciated by the team. And you kind of think, well, of course I'm going to do that. Like it's a no-brainer for me. Like, but happy to hang up jackets in the jacket shed at the end of your jet boat tour.
Absolutely. And actually sometimes it's quite nice just to get away from the stresses of your own job and then put yourself in somebody else's shoes and go, quite like doing this for a couple of hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we've sort of touched on it there, but what are some of the ways you motivate and inspire your team, especially during times of change or the challenges that you've had?
Oh, look, I think that's always a constant challenge sometimes, motivating staff. Often you tend to find, I think, sometimes if they're not motivated, often there's things going on outside of work as well. So actually kind of really getting to know the people themselves as well. But we also try and, especially wintertime for us, because we're quite a seasonal business, every month we give a different team within the park comes up with a social event. And so they all get the same set budget and they all come up with different ideas. And so, which is always, we've gone and done 10-pin bowling, they've gone to the golf driving range, what are the escape rooms, went and learnt to do how to cook, make something, in the cooking class type thing. Cool. So each team gets a chance to put something together. So that's always quite good, especially through the winter months. And then always at the end of our summer, we have an awards night. And so that's pretty much where management or the team can nominate people and management sort of identify, there's a health and safety award and there's the best import, the best foreign kind of worker that we've got working with us, all sorts of funds. And then there's the People Choice Award where only the staff get to nominate and vote for. We have awards for the brightest light in the room, the people that just kind of cheer everybody up. So that's, and pretty much everybody turns up to that. I don't know whether it's a free drink or but it's a fun night, so do some good stuff like that. So just trying to do those kind of fun things is always really important. And just kind of keeping the morale going and actually just kind of people sort of trying to encourage people to say if they're having a bad day. Yeah. And just kind of front-footing it, just saying, guys, I'm having a bad day at the moment or I'm just not feeling it, and just kind of being quite open about that.
Yeah. So how many staff do you have on site, like through the summer months, for example?
We have just over 100 on our books.
Wow.
But a lot of those are casual. So they could be waitresses or lifties for events and stuff like that. So it's probably equivalent to 45 odd terms or up to 50 in terms of FTEs.
Yeah.
And that kind of ranges from back office like marketing and accounts and stuff to our guest services team. We've got retail, we've got mechanics, we've got bike guides, we've got zip guides, we've got lifties, cafe staff, maintenance, patrollers. So they pick up the injured staff or injured customers. And then we've also got a trail crew team. So
wow.
so there's quite a lot actually that make this sort of beast operate. But and I think the other thing that's quite good is we often do multitask them, so they often can rotate around different departments. So because obviously there's a flow often within the park, they get a bit of variety.
Yep. No, it sounds very similar. I worked on the ski fields for a number of years, so it sounds a very similar operation actually, just without the white stuff.
Absolutely, and we get loads of people from the ski field. We work quite closely with Mount Hutt, and so sometimes some of our patrollers will be here over summer, and then they go to Mount Hutt in winter, and then they come to us. And same for some of the lifties as well. Yeah, it's great because then they can get year-round employment.
Yeah, awesome. And they can stay in the one spot because a lot of them sort of travel early in their career and they like to bounce through winters, but as they get older and start to settle, it's nice to have that year-round employment in the same place, isn't it? So it works really well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
awesome.
So we've got a bit of variety in there in terms of staffing.
Yeah, that's really cool. How do you envisage the future of Christchurch Adventure Park and what role do you see it playing in the broader New Zealand tourism landscape?
So I think Christchurch Adventure Park's got so much potential. Like we've got 353 hectares of land. So we've got space to do so many things. Probably the difficulty is actually defining what it is that we want to do next.
Yeah.
And originally it probably started off as a real sort of adventure kind of thing that we might have been putting, I don't know, crazy swings or jump, bungee jumps, all those sorts of things in. But it's kind of changed a wee bit over time, and I think the way that the sort of market's going and stuff, our whole ethos is around physical and mental well-being and through connecting with the outdoors. And that can be through adventure, and for some people that's just going for a walk in the forest and connecting with nature. For people that don't like heights, going on our chairlift is probably an adventure in itself. To those ones that wanting to do the zip line. So I think it's got so much potential, and I think just sort of getting out in nature, that whole piece with what New Zealand stands for, but actually having it right on your doorstep of the city is actually really is key. So I think it's got a lot of potential. Where it's quite going to go, who knows? We've just got to sort of narrow down where we want to take it. But in terms of the tourism landscape, we're just seeing more and more tourists coming and also wanting to connect, and like they're in a city, but they don't always want to go shopping or doing those sorts of things. So getting off a long haul flight, coming into Christchurch, coming into the park and just going for a walk through the forest is probably a really nice way just to kind of connect.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And what do you think makes the Christchurch Adventure Park stand out from other adventure tourism offerings that we have around the country?
Yeah, I think it's probably us moving away from that real adventure side, because there's some people that are doing it really well. And so actually kind of going, how do we sort of stand out and do things slightly differently, but also taking the best of what others do. So we're looking at maybe doing a partnering with a few other operators so they can come in and sort of maybe lease some space in here. So it's not necessarily always about us. We can bring some other brands on board. But I think that whole sort of health, wellness, connection with nature, that there's got a big potential to move forward. So kind of using it that way a wee bit more without becoming a spa, for example, or, like that kind of thing. But that kind of outdoor, I don't know, forest bathing or connecting with nature and doing those sorts of things. I think that's probably what will probably set us apart a wee bit. And I think the other thing too is, we set up and within 7 weeks had the fire, and then we've had COVID and another fire and a court case and all sorts of things going on, flooding. I think you get quite creative. You have to think differently when times are tough. Whereas if we'd been around when things are actually going really, really well, you don't have to think too hard, because you're just kind of on that sort of gravy train a wee bit. So I think we're definitely open to thinking differently and moving. I'm not going to say that horrible word that we said so much during COVID, but you know what I mean? Just kind of thinking about, okay, what's the future and where are we going with it, and actually if this isn't working, or actually we're seeing the trends not going in that direction, what fits with us.
Yeah, that was interesting actually that you say that, because you're obviously ahead of the curve. But when COVID did hit, that was probably the biggest learning for everybody, is that we'd been coasting along and all these good times, and international visitors just arrived, and all of a sudden borders were closed and everybody went, oh, the domestic market, whoops. I'd forgotten about them. We haven't been as active in that space or whatever. And so, yeah, everyone had to kind of learn to be a little bit more creative at that time. But obviously, you guys were ahead of it, so that was awesome.
Yeah, but and also too, I can't say that was through planning. It was through just the things that we were dealt, that we kind of had to be. So I can't actually claim that it was any kind of clear leadership or strategy that we had. It kind of just fell out of the way that the cards that we've been dealt.
Yeah, the bad luck kind of turned to some good luck for you, which you probably needed.
Out of every crisis or out of everything, there are always opportunities that kind of present themselves, and you just got to try and focus on those and move it forward, because it's very easy to get focused on the negative stuff.
Yes, you can stay in that downward spiral pretty easily if you're not careful. Hey.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
yeah. What are some of the emerging trends or challenges in adventure tourism that you think other leaders need to be prepared for?
Oh, look, you can't go past adventure tourism and risk and health and safety. You just, that obviously is, Whakaari, White Island, that's obviously the topic that's out there at the moment. So you've got to be across all that. I do worry sometimes that it's going to go too far. And I think you just got to be practical at the same time. But yeah, that definitely, that without a doubt, everybody's is on that. And I guess the other thing for me is probably that the whole mental health thing and connecting with sort of communities, the way people are sort of going. And then how do you embrace the other thing is, and it kind of feels counter to sort of connecting with the outdoors and stuff and people, but it's this whole AI thing, and I just don't know where that's going or how we use that and how we take that forward. But I think there's some real opportunities there, but it will never fully replace those personal interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it could help with some of the mundane tasks that we can free our people up to be more front facing, people interacting, that kind of thing potentially.
And I think it's probably making teams and more efficient, and sort of making things a lot easier for the end consumer in terms of it's around booking or those kind of basic sort of things, and they process things. But that then enables the teams to and the staff to then actually really focus on the customer. So it's funny because while we are investing in AI, but we just in small dabbles at the moment, we're not quite sure exactly where we're going with it. But at the same time, we are investing in our teams around customer experience and upskilling them and stuff, and more on that side of things. So I guess off the back of the summit last week was actually really good, just to have that really clear focus on how do you make memorable moments, and how do you, people leave and they remember you for how they felt.
Exactly.
So how do you do that, and how do you just do that one little step about that 1% more that can actually really make somebody's day?
Yep.
So we're quite excited about looking at how we can do that. So
Oh,
makes customers feel good and makes staff feel good as well. So
it does. I know, it's so nice if a customer turns around to your staff and says, thank you so much, I've had a great day, because normally we're saying thank you for coming, thank you for visiting, but when they turn around, you can see the smiles on your staff faces, and all of a sudden they're going, actually I'm doing a good job. It's that validation that you can give them, but it means a lot more, I think, when it comes from the customers sometimes, that they've had an awesome day. And
entirely. And then when they do little Google reviews and actually name some of the staff, it's so nice. That's great.
No, that's very cool. So what advice would you give to other emerging leaders in tourism who aspire to make a lasting impact in the industry?
I would just say throw yourself into it, have some fun with it, but don't be afraid. You just go out there and kind of create relationships with people, and I think have a lasting impact. I think it's about the relationships with people, and don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to do something a wee bit different. If rather than sort of we've always done it this way, just try something a wee bit different. and back yourself, but also too know when to pull out of something if it's not working properly. Kind of if you're going to fail, that old adage, fail fast.
Fail fast, yep.
Yeah, and I think, there's never anything such a thing as a dumb idea. So everybody's ideas will spark, and while we might not go with that thing, it might spark thinking in somebody else. So, and I think in terms of emerging leader, back yourself with good people and listen to them.
Great advice. And finally, looking back on your career so far, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self starting out in the industry?
You don't know what you're in for.
Be prepared.
Yes. I think starting out in the industry, I think I would say to my younger self, have some more belief and faith in yourself. I think that comes over time and as you kind of grow and stuff like that. But I definitely second guessed myself and had a bit of imposter syndrome, and you kind of assume that everybody else is all across it.
Yep.
I think one of the things I definitely noticed in the tourism industry when I first joined was just like, these 3-letter acronyms: RTOs, ITOs, OBAs, IVOs,
FOCs.
What the hell are they talking about? And actually, and so you kind of sit there and feel like you don't know what's going on, but actually it's, don't be afraid to ask questions and use people around you and actually trust your gut. I probably would have said a wee bit more. I think that definitely comes over time, and I definitely do now, but probably when I first started, I didn't have that.
No, we do need that little acronym handbook, I think. It's written for tourism because it is challenging. I mean, I've been in the industry nearly 30 years, so I kind of started out, and I remember being in my early 20s going, what are they all talking about? And because you're that young, it's easy to kind of fake it until you make it. But if you do come in a little bit later, it's like, what are they talking about? And particularly if you come in at a manager level and all of these random words and acronyms that people use.
And you don't want to appear stupid, so you don't really want to ask the question. And you feel like they're speaking a foreign language, and you're like, I don't know what they're talking about. And you get so caught up trying to work out what this acronym means that you're actually not involved in the conversation.
That's right. You forget everything else, so you don't hear anything else that's said.
Probably somewhere for a little tourism 3-letter acronym dictionary would be great.
Yes. I actually had a boss start out once, many years ago, and he used to carry around one of those little books, we used to use it for our address books with the alphabet down the side. And he'd be sitting in meetings and somebody would say something and he'd go, sorry, stop. What does that mean? And he'd get out his book and he'd write it in there. And, I kind of laughed at him at the time, but it was really smart because then he could go back and, that's what that means. That's what they're talking about. Okay, I know what that is.
And it's interesting because I find myself doing it now. I use those acronyms all the time. And it's actually taking a step back and realizing when I'm talking to somebody, like some of my crew, they have no clue what I'm talking about. So kind of going, and I do, every now and then have to stop myself and go, I'm just doing it now.
Yep. It becomes our own little internal language, doesn't it?
It does,
Oh, cool. Well, look, Anne, thank you so much for joining me today, and congratulations once again on the Emerging Tourism Leader Award. Really great news. It was a hard-fought category, the one you were in, but really tough to see you.
It was a very hard-fought category, and there's some great people out there doing amazing things. So, I kind of felt a wee bit guilty because there were some other people I thought, they really deserve it. Wow.
I think just getting to be a finalist is a massive thing in the Tourism Awards because we know how many entries go into, and I don't know individually into each category, but a lot of people apply for the various categories, and even to just sort of be named a finalist, I think it's a huge honor, but to win it obviously is pretty incredible. So congratulations.
It's exciting, and I think there's so much growth and potential and opportunity out there with some really cool people out there. So I'm really excited to see where it goes over the coming years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, all the best. Thank you for joining us, and wish you all the best for the summer season.
Lovely. Thanks, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
Ka kite.